My dad handed me to the mafia to pay his debts. Their boss looked me over and scoffed, too skinny. Needs fattening. I cried, clinging to him. Please don't eat me. Later, when Dad came to buy me back, the boss just ruffled my hair and said, keep the money. She's mine now. The first day of summer break in 6th grade, I found my dad at a lottery shop. He was in high spirits, grinning at me. Just wait, kiddo. When I win big, I'll take you around the world. If a gambler's promises were trustworthy, pigs would fly. So, when a group of tattooed men suddenly barged in, I calmly slipped into a closet. They beat my dad black and blue, but he still had the nerve to bargain. Brothers, lend me a bit more. I can make a comeback. Through the crack of the closet door, I saw the leader. He looked about 20, wearing a baseball jacket and a cigarette dangling from his lips. He glanced sideways at my dad, full of arrogant disdain. He was cool. Like an anime character come to life. Still chewing on his cigarette, he asked lazily, not impossible. What can you offer as collateral? I shivered. An ominous feeling swept over me. Without a second thought, my dad yanked open the closet and dragged my trembling self out, pushing me toward the boss. My daughter. She's obedient, smart, and doesn't eat much. I stared at my dad in shock. Other people fall into traps set by their fathers. Mine dug a pit and threw me in himself. The boss sauntered over, gaze sweeping across me before he wrinkled his nose in distaste. Ugh. Too skinny. Needs to be fattened up. Horrifying images flashed through my mind. I wailed and clung to his arm, sobbing. I don't taste good. Please don't eat me. The gangsters in the room burst into laughter. Even the boss's lips twitched into a smirk. He patted my head. Got it. I'll wait till you're plumper. I cried even harder. And just like that, I was taken away and stuffed into their car. The boss stared at his phone the entire ride. At one point, he pulled out a cigarette butt, catching sight of me beside him, tucked it away again. My stomach growled loudly. Panicked, I quickly clamped my hands over it. Hungry? He asked. I nodded, then quickly shook my head. He tossed a bun to me and gestured for me to eat. I was starving, but I didn't dare eat. If I gained weight, he'd think I was delicious and really eat me. I'd just read a manga where the male lead devoured people. The dad's a slippery bastard, the guy in the front seat muttered. Bringing the kid back won't scare him. You think I need your advice? The boss snapped, cracking his knuckles. The man shrank back immediately. I was too terrified to move. My brain short-circuited. Eat, the boss said, watching me. Sniffling, I obediently unwrapped the bun and began nibbling between sobs, until I started choking. He sighed, twisted open a bottle of water, and handed it to me. Drink. Unbelievable, he muttered, massaging his temples as he looked out the window. His voice was quiet, but I still heard him. 5 minutes later, the car pulled up to a villa on the outskirts of town. 2 tattooed men stood ramrod straight at the entrance and called out in unison, "Boss." I jumped in fright and shrank further into the seat. What the hell are you yelling for? Keep it down, the boss snapped, kicking one of them. He turned to me and said, Get out. Boss, what's up with you being all gentle now? One of the men grumbled. Didn't you say to be loud and intimidating? Before they could finish, they spotted me, and froze. Where'd this little girl come from? Elementary schooler? I kept my head down and hugged my backpack, following behind the boss. Out of the way, he barked, shoving them aside. Then he pointed at their arms. Put on long sleeves. But it's hot. The boss shot them a glare, and the 2 of them scattered, returning a moment later in long-sleeved shirts. He told me to sit on the couch while he made a call. The couch was soft and plush. I got drowsy in no time but didn't dare fall asleep. I kept pinching my thigh to stay awake. Still, I dozed off. In my dream, I was lying on fluffy clouds, surrounded by a faint sweet fragrance. It felt so comfortable. When I woke up, I found myself lying in bed. The huge room was empty, except for that one bed. I hadn't had breakfast, and besides that bun, I hadn't eaten all day. I was starving. Opening the door, I saw the boss on the phone, ready to head out. Our eyes met. He hung up immediately. I panicked and ran back into the room, peeking through the door crack. Kid. Come out, he called. I stood at the door, too scared to look at him. Hungry? He asked. I stole a glance. He didn't seem angry, so I gave a small nod. He dialed another number and ordered takeout for me. Food's on the way. It'll be here soon, he said, tidying up. Then he turned back and reminded me, I'll be back later. I nodded. A little while later, the food arrived. 3 whole bags of takeout. My mouth watered at the sight. My mom died giving birth to me. After that, my dad turned to gambling. The day he got his paycheck was always the happiest day of the month for me, because I could finally eat a proper meal. The rest of the money? All gambled away. I laid out the food neatly on the table, then went out to find the boss so we could eat together. It was dark outside. I looked around, then heard a sound coming from the back of the house. I tiptoed toward it. And froze in shock. Under dim lighting, 5 or 6 men were brawling. The boss was fighting 4 of them at once, like something out of an action anime. Each punch seemed to carry wind behind it. I gaped, terrified. So this was a real gang fight? It was so scary. My legs refused to move. It was like they were nailed to the ground. When the fight ended, the boss suddenly turned around and looked straight at me. I bolted. After running for 10 steps, my foot twisted. I fell flat on my face. My knee throbbed in pain, but I didn't dare cry. I scrambled desperately to get up. Would he kill me for seeing something I shouldn't have? I didn't want to be silenced. Woo dash. Why are you running? The boss, Jordan, strode toward me, towering over me. Didn't I tell you to stay inside? I froze in place. Not getting up? His voice turned sharp. No, I fumbled and struggled, unable to get to my feet. He muttered, troublesome, before hauling me up. Then he frowned at my scraped, bleeding knee and cursed under his breath. He lifted me up like a little chick and started walking toward the house. Why did you come out? He asked. I wanted to call you in for dinner, I whispered. Jordan paused. His gaze fell on the food-covered table. After a long silence, he asked, did you bring clothes? I shook my head. He picked up his phone. Buy a few sets of girls' clothes, he said. Then, turning to me, what size? With tears still clinging to my lashes, I replied in a low voice, size 150. You heard that, he said into the phone before hanging up. Jordan sat down on a chair and cleared his throat. Come eat. I quietly walked over and sat down, picking at the leafy greens in my bowl. Suddenly, a wave of pressure came over me. Jordan frowned. Not eating meat? You're picky too. He dumped a heap of meat into my bowl. I hadn't had meat in so long. I wanted to eat it, but I was too afraid. Eat, he ordered. I nodded and began to eat quickly, but I must have eaten too fast. I threw up everything. With a clatter, Jordan slammed his chopsticks onto the table and grabbed his phone. How many phone numbers does your dad have? Just one. He tossed the phone onto the table and rubbed his temples, trying to stay calm. After a moment, he asked, so, if you don't like meat, what do you like? I do like meat. It's been so long since I had any, I quickly explained. He ran a hand through his messy hair and pushed the meat out of my bowl. Though still irritated, his voice softened. Eat whatever you want. And stop hunching your shoulders, I'm not going to eat you. I know, I nodded. Not entirely dumb, huh? He chuckled. What's your name? Jessica. My nickname's Jess. Jordan nodded and continued eating. I hesitated, should I ask for his name too? Would it be rude not to? What about you? I asked. He blinked, then laughed out loud. Suddenly, I panicked. Did I say something wrong? Still smiling, he replied seriously, Jordan. But don't call me that, no respect. Call me Gidge, big brother, got it? Oh, okay. I sighed in relief and nodded quickly. Ding dong. The doorbell rang. Jordan got up and returned carrying several shopping bags. He tossed them to me. Your clothes. I opened them and gasped, fluffy, pastel dresses in pink and peach. They were beautiful. I hugged the clothes to my chest and smiled at him. He glanced up while chewing and rolled his eyes. What are you grinning at? Thank you, I murmured. I've never worn anything this pretty before. His hand paused in midair. My dad will definitely pay you back, I added earnestly. Don't worry. He pointed at the table. Eat. Grown-up stuff isn't your concern. Oh, I nodded. After dinner, I volunteered to clean the table. His phone kept ringing non-stop. It was only 8 o'clock when I finished, so I took out my homework. Would working here disturb him? What are you doing? He asked suddenly, ending his call and looking at me, puzzled. I'm doing my summer homework. Where should I write it? He sighed and led me to my room. When he turned on the light, he froze, apparently just realizing the room only had a bed. Forget it. Do it in the living room for now. Okay. I lay across the table and started writing. He continued taking phone calls. A while later, he came over and tapped the table. What are you doing? Is the pen tasty? I shrank my neck back. I don't understand this question, I whispered. Which one? He muttered, sitting down and flipping through my notebook. You can't even set X? I nodded. But, which one do I make X? He rubbed his forehead. You're kind of dumb. Still, he picked up a piece of scratch paper, scribbled out an equation, and explained it to me. Honestly, it made more sense than how my teacher explained it. I understood right away. You're amazing, I said sincerely. Suddenly, his hand reached toward my head. I flinched and dropped to my knees, hugging my head. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. He was stunned. What the hell are you doing? I thought you were going to hit me. That's how my dad always did it. I'd gotten used to it. Whenever he raised his hand, I'd kneel and beg for forgiveness. If I was obedient enough, he might hit me less. Jordan froze, then kicked his chair aside and cursed. God damn it. When I find David, I'll break that bastard's legs. The next morning, I got up early and was frying eggs in the kitchen when Jordan walked in. He scratched his head and snapped, "Why are you so nosy? Who told you to mess with the stove?" I was about to reply when I noticed a deep gash on his left hand. I said nothing and quietly retreated to my room. That afternoon, some movers came and delivered furniture, an entire room full of pink, with Doraemon painted on the walls. Like a princess's bedroom from a fairy tale. I spent the whole day in the room, touching this and admiring that. My old home was tiny. It only had one bedroom, Dad slept inside, and I had to sleep out on the balcony. I had always dreamed of having a room of my own. Gidge, I heard Jordan come back. I ran out. He looked at me and nodded. Hungry? I shook my head and pointed at his injured hand. I found some disinfectant in the drawer. Do you want me to help you apply it? I asked, cradling the bottle carefully in my hands. The wound looked bad. If it didn't get cleaned, it might get infected. He looked at the bottle, then held out his hand. Hurry up. I've got things to do. Okay, I'll be quick. I gently dabbed the wound and blew on it to cool the sting. He cleared his throat. Got any questions you can't do today? That night, I had a dream. In the dream, I suddenly had an older brother. When I was starving, he'd magically produce warm, fluffy bread. When I struggled with homework, he'd flick my nose and call me dummy, then turn around and patiently explain everything. When my dad tried to hit me, my brother grabbed his wrist and shouted at him. In my dream, my brother took me to an amusement park. He bought me ice cream, the kind I'd always wanted to try but never had. The park was so much fun. I wore a Mickey Mouse headband and insisted he wear one too. He looked completely helpless, but I couldn't stop laughing. On the way home, he kept me close, shielding me from the crowd. Smiling, he asked, Jess, did you have fun? I nodded furiously and beamed. You're the best brother ever. I was still smiling when I woke up. The room was pitch black. I turned over once, then again, and groggily opened the door. The living room was dim. Someone sat on the couch, scrolling on their phone. Rubbing my eyes, I called out instinctively, Gidge? The faint glow from the phone screen lit up Jordan's face. He turned to me, stunned. I snapped awake instantly and opened my mouth to explain that I'd just dreamed about calling him that. It wasn't on purpose. But then he answered me. Yeah? What is it? He wasn't mad I called him Gidge. And no, nothing. I'm just going to the bathroom, I mumbled, pointing toward it before hurrying off, a bounce in my step. When I returned to my room, I drifted right back into the same dream. The next morning, I got up and opened the door to the smell of breakfast. Jordan came out of the kitchen with a glass of milk, gesturing to the food on the table. Eat. I walked over and greeted him timidly. Morning. Gidge. His brow furrowed. He paused for a second with the milk in midair, then set it down in front of me with a thud. Was he angry? I lowered my head and ate in silence, afraid to make a sound. After a few bites, Jordan asked, Where do you want to go during summer break? An amusement park, could I say that? I looked up at him cautiously. Quit mumbling. Spit it out, he said, annoyed. I want to go to the amusement park, I whispered, biting my lip. Everyone in my class had gone, except me. I'd always envied them, but never dared mention it to my dad. If he found out, he wouldn't just refuse, he'd probably scold me too. But Jordan didn't. He just pointed at me and grumbled, such modest dreams. Yet the very next morning, he woke me up early, and we hit the road. I was thrilled the entire drive. Jordan even hummed along to the music as he drove. At the park, he bought me everything I looked at. Before long, my backpack was full, and my arms were carrying 2 giant stuffed animals. A group of kids gathered around. One of them poked my plushie and asked, full of envy, Sis, that Stella Lou is limited edition. Who bought it for you? I looked up proudly at Jordan and smiled. My brother. Jordan's lips curled into a smile, but he didn't say anything. Your brother's awesome, the kid said before running off to play with his own brother. I felt proud too. I had a brother now. We walked past a shop with Mickey Mouse headbands hanging everywhere. I paused for a moment. Buy it, Jordan said. No need, I shook my head quickly. He'd already spent so much money, and my dad still owed him a fortune. It was way too much. I was really scared my dad would never pay him back. Just then, I heard a soft ding, the sound of a mobile payment going through. Jordan handed me 2 Mickey headbands. I took them and suddenly remembered my dream last night. So I held one out to him. Gidge, you wear one too. A grown man wearing this nonsense, he barked, looking extremely displeased. I pouted, a bit disappointed. Oh. We walked a few more steps, then he suddenly scratched his head and came back, squatting in front of me. I blinked in surprise and tilted my head. Put it on me already, he snapped. Oh. Right. I quickly slipped it onto his head and praised him. You look great in it, Gidge. He really did. Jordan rolled his eyes and waved me off. Go play already. What a stupid place. That day, we rode all the rides. On the way back, I was still buzzing with excitement. Jordan, on the other hand, was completely wiped out. I stroked the soft fur of my plushie and turned to him. Gidge, thank you. Today's the happiest day of my life. He raised a hand and flicked my forehead. You little brat. Don't say things like, in your whole life. But I nodded seriously. Because I would remember this day. Forever. Before I knew it, summer vacation was already halfway over. One afternoon, I couldn't sleep. I overheard Jordan talking to one of his men in the living room. Still no sign of David, the man spat. There was a pause. Then in a lowered voice, boss. If we still can't find him, are we really going to keep raising his daughter? I perked up my ears. Jordan's tone was cold. She has nowhere else to go. If I just throw her out, how am I any better than that bastard David? The guy mumbled, but we're worse than David, honestly. Get lost. Jordan snapped. I secretly called my dad. I wanted to push him to repay his debt. He still hadn't paid Jordan a cent, and I was here eating his food, living under his roof. How shameless could my dad be? To my surprise, he actually answered. His voice was furtive, like he was hiding. Who is this? When are you going to pay him back? I asked. When will you come get me? Just hang in there for another month. My luck's been great lately. I'm sure I'll win. Then he hung up. I slumped on the bed, frustrated. After a moment, I told Jordan. He simply said, don't worry about grown-up stuff. But I knew, even if I wanted to help, I couldn't. Not with a dad like mine. Jordan was getting busier by the day. That afternoon, I'd just finished lunch and was in my room doing homework when a woman burst in. She had bright red hair, wore a short skirt, and a lollipop in her mouth. She kicked open my door and jumped onto my desk. Her eyes swept over the room's decor. She tugged on the hem of my dress and sneered, so it's even designer, huh? Designer? I didn't know. You're Jess, she asked, giving me a light kick with her foot. I nodded. When are you leaving? I didn't answer. My dad still hadn't paid up. Sure, I had plenty of chances to run. But if I did, Jordan would have no leverage to collect the money. As far as my dad was concerned, I was collateral. Jordan was a good person, I couldn't screw him over. I asked you a question, she suddenly yanked my ponytail. My head slammed into the back of the chair, sending a wave of dizziness through me. I never said I didn't want to leave, I murmured, gathering my courage. And then, I told her exactly what was in my heart. She patted my cheek and sneered, you'd better get lost on your own. Your dad can't escape this debt. Jordan has 100 ways to make him pay. Tears welled up in my eyes. A kid like you is just a burden. Your dad couldn't wait to toss you out, yet you have the nerve to act like it's fine being Jordan's little deadweight. 3 days. If you're still here by then, I'll beat you every time I see you. She flicked her lollipop onto my workbook and turned to leave. Just as she reached the door, she ran into Jordan head-on. She froze for a moment, then her eyes lit up as she threw herself at him. You're finally back. I'm starving, take me out for dinner. I lowered my head, afraid to look up. The door slammed shut behind her. Then shouting erupted from the living room. Get out! Jordan roared. You've finally made something of yourself, and now you're dragging around a useless brat, she shrieked, hurling a glass. Mind your damn business. Fine, I won't. But if you mess up this deal, even if someone chops you up, don't expect my dad to help. You're on your own. The front door slammed again, hard. After a long silence, Jordan came into my room. He stood in front of me, face dark. Why didn't you call for help when she hit you? There were people outside. I didn't say a word. I thought she was his girlfriend, and I was just an outsider. Jordan stared at me, disappointed. You've got to be tougher. Don't bully others, but don't let them bully you either. Got it. I nodded. Got it. He turned to leave. I stood up, gripping the back of my chair, and spoke softly. Gidge. Maybe you should send me back home. My dad. He might not care enough to repay the debt. I'll pay you back myself, when I grow up. I looked up at him, eyes steady. Jordan looked down at me and smiled, then gently patted my head. All right. If you want to pay me back, go ahead. Should I write you an IOU? I tore a page from my notebook and began scribbling. Halfway through, I looked up and asked, how much is it? $500,000. Then I'll write $1 million. I'll pay you back double when I grow up. Jordan burst out laughing. Ballsy. I like it. Seeing him laugh made me happy too. I would study hard, get into college, find a job, and earn money to pay him back. I'd left part of my homework at home, so Jordan drove me back. I really hoped my dad would be there. That way, Jordan wouldn't have to keep taking care of me. But when we arrived, the landlord had already taken back the place. All our stuff had been thrown out. I stood downstairs helplessly. My dad had really abandoned me. I didn't even have that last thread of hope. Let's go home, Jordan said, patting my head. As long as he's not dead, he'll show up one day. So I followed him back to his place again. From that day forward, I worked even harder. I took the initiative to do all the chores. Jordan saw through me. He bought me stacks of workbooks, and I had homework to do every single day. Hugging a pile of math drills, I groaned, "Gidge, thank you." He tossed me another set. "You're welcome." There's more where that came from. This summer break was intense. After a whole day of writing, my head was spinning. When Jordan got home and reviewed my homework, he found a bunch of mistakes and made me copy the wrong ones again. "Gidge, you really missed your calling as a teacher." He stroked his chin and nodded. "You think I can't do it? Your brother just has other ambitions." I giggled. Boss. One of his men ran in. "Isn't it time to register for school? I saw a bunch of parents at the school gates just now." A chill ran down my spine. I flipped the calendar, August 20th, it really is time to register. We rushed to the school. At the office, the teacher asked for my household registration documents, and I remembered my dad had them. Without it, I couldn't register. I panicked and tried to explain, but the teacher said I'd have to bring the paperwork back later. In the car, Jordan rubbed his temples, clearly annoyed. "Don't worry. I'll take care of it." I had no idea how he got the registration papers, but in the end, I got enrolled smoothly. "Congratulations, Miss Jessica, you're officially a middle schooler now." "Thank you." I was thrilled. Entering middle school felt like stepping into adulthood. "Come on, let's go buy you a new backpack." Jordan walked ahead, and I skipped along behind him. He bought me everything I needed, all in one go. Bags and bags stuffed into the car trunk. Just as he started the car, his phone rang. A voice on the other end said, "Hello, is this Jessica's older brother?" Jordan didn't hesitate. "Yes, it is." The teacher continued, "Could we add this number on WeChat? We need to collect some school fees. Also, would you be available for the parent-teacher meeting next Monday?" Parent-teacher meeting? Jordan glanced at me, clearly unfamiliar with the term. Once I nodded, he replied, "Sure. I'll come." I felt bad and quickly said, "Gidge, you don't have to go if you don't want to." My parents had never attended any parent meetings before. "I'll go. I've got time anyway." Jordan was humming again as he drove. New life experience. Not bad. On the day of the meeting, Jordan showed up in a tailored suit and tie. He even took notes while the teacher spoke. The other parents were all impressed. "Such a responsible brother," they praised. "Are you in college? Or already working? Are you married?" Jordan was clearly uncomfortable being surrounded by small talk and struggled to deal with all the attention. I watched from the doorway, trying not to laugh. When he came out, he flicked my forehead. "What the hell are you laughing at? After all this effort, you better study hard and get first place. Or I'll break your legs." I nodded fiercely. "I will, I promise. I won't let you down." Even though Jordan was busy, he still walked me to school from time to time. Once, a few classmates saw us. They whispered in awe, "Jessica, your brother is so handsome." I always lifted my chin proudly. Of course. I'd been eating well lately, and growing fast. My teacher decided to seat me next to a boy. My new desk mate's greatest talent was sleeping. The first time I met him, he had a bandage wrapped around his head. I tried not to get involved, but sometimes the more you avoid something, the more it finds you. In class, I was listening attentively when I suddenly felt a sharp tug at my scalp. I turned, and saw him holding my ponytail, grinning mischievously. I glared at him and quickly flipped my hair to the front to keep it out of reach. During our lunch break nap, he took a pair of scissors and snipped off a large chunk of my hair. Grinning, he said, "Just a joke. Can't take a joke." I looked at the jagged, uneven ends, like a dog had chewed them, and burst into tears, running straight to the teacher's office. The teacher scolded him, but it didn't help. Instead, he escalated things, writing all over my school uniform with a marker when I wasn't paying attention. After school, when I got home, Jordan saw the writing on my clothes and the mess my hair had become. His brows knitted tightly. "I'm taking you to school tomorrow," he said coldly. The next day, he canceled all his plans just to walk me to school. Not only that, he carried my backpack straight into the classroom. He stalked around the room like a lion inspecting his territory, then sat down at my desk and stared at my desk mate. He didn't say a word, but the boy turned pale. Suddenly, Jordan stood up and knocked his knuckles on the desk. Focus on your studies. Anyone who dares to act out, trust me, I've got ways to deal with them. After he left, my desk mate tearfully apologized and kept his distance from then on. I was thrilled. Finally, I could enjoy my classes in peace. A week passed quietly. I thought the whole ordeal was over. But then, on my way to the bathroom, I overheard some classmates whispering, I heard Jessica's brother is in the mafia. Yeah. He looks like a wolf, like he could snap Raymond's neck at any second. Raymond was so scared, he practically peed himself. No way he'll ever bully Jessica again. I wanted to run over and explain, but the girls scattered the moment they saw me. Later that day, the teacher called me into the office again. They started with polite small talk, then gave me a warning, behave yourself. Don't bring underworld influences into the class. In class, everyone went silent whenever I entered. No one talked to me. No one played with me. I'd been ostracized. I didn't really mind. If they didn't want to play with me, I'd just focus on studying. Jordan eventually found out. He was so furious he nearly flipped a table. He called in one of his men. Go fix this. And if you can't, don't bother coming back. I stepped in to stop him. It's okay, Gidge. I don't care about that. Jordan studied me carefully and saw that I wasn't just being soft or polite. He nodded. All right, we'll do it your way. But if anyone bullies you again, you tell me immediately. I nodded. Time flew by, and before I knew it, the semester was nearly over. Still no sign of my dad. When our midterm results came out, I was ranked top 5 in the entire grade. I stood at the school gate with my backpack, excited to share the good news with Jordan. But I waited and waited, his car never came. Eventually, I had to walk home. At the corner of an alley, I heard someone crying. A crowd had gathered to watch. It was the only way home, so I had no choice but to push forward. As I approached, the murmurs reached my ears. Just a bunch of thugs. No good people, that lot. Nah, it's not about being a thug. They came for money. The ones who should be ashamed are the ones who borrow and don't repay. Serves them right. The more I heard, the more uneasy I felt. Pushing through the crowd, I saw furniture scattered all over the place. On the ground sat an old woman and a younger woman, both wailing and begging for help. Further inside lay a man, dazed, glassy-eyed. I recognized that look all too well. It was the look my dad had. I sighed and started to walk around them. But just then, someone stepped out of the house. I froze. He saw me too. It was Jordan. His gaze flickered when he noticed me. I stood still. I didn't say anything. This was his work. He knew what he was doing. He glanced at me once more, then continued handling the situation. His expression was noticeably softer than before, not nearly as fierce. Suddenly, someone from the crowd rushed forward and cried out, Dad. All eyes turned. A girl with fair skin, twin braids, and tears clinging to her lashes threw herself at the man on the ground. It was Salma, the prettiest girl in our class. I was stunned. She held her father's hand and begged, Dad, please. Stop gambling, okay? The man sobbed, repeating, I'll stop, I swear. No more gambling. Never again. But I knew better. Gamblers never really stop. Their words mean nothing. Jordan shifted his weight slightly. Salma, trembling, stepped to the side. I had half a mind to tell her, go plead with Jordan. He seems cold, but he's soft-hearted. If he weren't, he wouldn't have taken me in. But before I could act, Jordan grabbed Salma by the collar and lifted her off the ground. He looked straight at her family. 3 days. If the debt's not paid, I've got plenty of ways to deal with you. Salma dangled in the air, feet off the ground. She panicked and clutched Jordan's sleeve. Gidge. My dad really can't pay. Can you wait until I grow up? I'll pay you back. Jordan sneered, voice low and cold. Save it. 3 days. Not a day more. He let go. Salma hit the ground with a loud thud. The entire crowd fell silent. Everyone gasped. Even I was frightened. I'd never seen this side of Jordan before. That night, I stayed in my room doing homework, but my mind kept replaying what had happened. I told myself, this is Jordan's job. The one in the wrong is Salma's father. But then again, smashing furniture and threatening people felt so cruel. I tugged my hair in frustration until it turned into a bird's nest. Just then, Jordan pushed open the door. Dinner. Startled, I smoothed my hair and quickly replied, oh. Coming. At the table, he sat across from me, head down, eating silently. I swallowed a bite of vegetables and looked up. Gidge. He didn't lift his head. I gathered my thoughts. Gidge, is there a softer way to collect debts? He stared at me for a long moment, then replied expressionlessly, no. With that, he tossed his chopsticks onto the table and left without looking back. One of his men leaned over. Jess, you don't understand. That family? They're no saints. When we went to collect, their grandma swung a metal pipe at us. He pulled over another guy and yanked up his pant leg. Look, Luke got smacked hard. Left a gash. Salma's mom scratched the hell out of us. Kept yelling, no money, take our lives instead. They never blamed the guy who gambled their money away, just us for asking for it back. After ranting, he downed a cup of water. That family? You can't be polite to people like them. I didn't know what to say. It's true that debts should be repaid. But the way they collect. I wasn't sure anymore. I couldn't tell who was right or wrong. After a while, I quietly took a bowl of food and brought it to Jordan. Jordan shot me a glance, his voice indifferent. Leave it there. I sat beside him and whispered, I was wrong. I'm sorry. It's nothing, he replied flatly. I never did honest business to begin with. I knew how it might end the day I started. His tone was light, almost dismissive. I wanted to say something, explain myself, but realized I had no right to lecture him. Silently, I stepped out of his room. After that day, my classmates all looked at me strangely. Salma treated me like I was her worst enemy. I pretended not to notice. People are often more sympathetic toward the pretty ones. And just like that, someone came forward to stand up for her. It was during lunch break. I was on my way to the restroom, passing a desk when someone suddenly tripped me. I caught myself on a chair and barely avoided falling. I'm warning you, leave Salma alone, you gangster's brat. It was Thomas, a boy who had a crush on Salma. I glanced at Salma. She quickly turned her head, pretending she didn't hear. Funny, Salma and I had gone through similar things. I clenched my fists and swallowed my anger. But my silence seemed to embolden them. They thought I was easy to bully, that they stood on some kind of moral high ground. That day, as I walked into the classroom, I heard Thomas shouting with a smug grin, hey, look. It's the gangster's little sister. I ignored him and went to grab my books. The moment I reached into my desk drawer, I felt something cold and slimy, and heard a faint hissing. A snake. Instantly, Jordan's words echoed in my head, if you tolerate out of love, that's noble. But if you tolerate out of fear, it's shameful. I couldn't keep being weak. Without hesitation, I grabbed the snake and threw it right at them. Screams rang out across the classroom. I stood up, trembling with rage, and pointed at them. My brother is not a gangster. He runs a lending business. If you think money is evil, then don't borrow any. Tell me, are men who gamble away their lives and sell off their children somehow more deserving of sympathy than someone simply collecting a debt? You borrow, you repay. That's basic decency. The room fell into an eerie silence. Everyone stared at me, stunned. You all pretend to be righteous, but what is this? Ganging up on an innocent girl? If you really care about justice, go confront my brother. Why take it out on me? I slammed my hand on the desk and glared at them. Their expressions cracked. No one dared speak. They turned away, avoiding my gaze. I wiped a tear from my face. When I looked up, Jordan was standing at the classroom door, holding my art bag. I must have left it in the car earlier. He stepped in, his eyes sweeping across the students who'd bullied me. He didn't say a word, but his presence alone was enough to terrify them. Thomas and his gang shrank into their seats like frightened quails. So pathetic. And yet they had the guts to bully others? Jordan let out a cold chuckle. He handed me the bag and gently patted my head. Not bad, little one. You're getting braver. I bit my lip, looking at his back as he turned away, and smiled. After that, no one dared bully me again. I had a brother who looked like he could kill someone at any moment. And I wasn't a pushover anymore. Things finally seemed to settle down. I remained top of the class after the monthly exams. Some of the parents, still frightened by Jordan's aura, came to the school to complain. In the teacher's office, my teacher took a sip of tea and calmly said, she ranks top 50 in the whole city. A student with grades like hers, how could she possibly be a bad kid? Just like that, the parents had nothing to say and never showed up again. One day after school, I came home and saw Jordan crouched at the door, talking on the phone. He gave me a look. Go do your homework. I obeyed and went back to my room, but still couldn't let it go. I tried calling Dad again. No surprise, it didn't go through. Sighing, I boiled some noodles with an egg and brought them out to share with Jordan. He was leaning on a bench, talking on the phone with a cold, intense gaze. The moment he saw me, he hung up and started walking over. But just then, I caught a flicker of movement in the shadows behind him, a glint of something sharp. Someone sprang out from the darkness. Too fast. I couldn't even scream. Instinctively, I pushed Jordan aside. The attacker missed him but stabbed me in the shoulder. It hurt, bad. I grabbed onto Jordan's arm. Luke. Leon. Call an ambulance. Jordan shouted. He held me in his arms, his hands trembling. Are you stupid? If I die, I die. Why would you shield me? His voice cracked. He reached up to stroke my head. Does it hurt? I was scared out of my mind, clutching his sleeve. My voice trembled too. Brother, can you change your job? This is too dangerous. His whole body was shaking. He fought to hold back his emotions. All right. I will. I let out a breath of relief. My vision began to blur, and I could hear his panicked voice calling my name over and over. My injury wasn't serious. The doctor said it was just a flesh wound, no bones damaged. Still, Jordan made the doctor confirm it again and again before he finally calmed down. When I woke up, he was sleeping with his head on the edge of my hospital bed, holding my hand. I moved slightly and winced from the pain. Jordan jolted upright. His eyes were sunken with dark circles, he looked exhausted. You're awake? He asked softly. Does it hurt? Do you want painkillers? I'm fine. I shook my head. Go rest for a bit. The doctor said it's a minor injury. Jordan pressed his lips together, his voice low and hoarse. What if your arm had been ruined? I don't care what happens to me, I'm a worthless life anyway. But you, it's not worth it. I shook my head. You're not worthless. You may look scary, but you're the kindest person I know. Jordan froze, staring at me. There was something in his eyes I couldn't understand. After a few days, I was recovering well. One morning, my dad showed up. The moment he saw Jordan, he dropped to his knees. Big brother, I'm here to repay the money. He stuffed a bundle of cash into Jordan's hands. Here, count it. Jordan looked down at him, emotionless. So, you finally came back? Well, kids are a burden, sure, but having a daughter could still be useful. You know, for old age, Dad said with a sheepish grin. Jordan scoffed and helped me take a sip of water. I wanted to tell him to just take the money, otherwise, who knows what my dad might gamble it on next. But then Jordan said coldly, take the money. The kid stays with me. Both my dad and I froze. My father stammered in shock, stay with you? No, that's not right, is it? I looked at Jordan in disbelief and shook my head. I was still young, couldn't make money, and honestly, a burden. My father, for all his flaws, was still legally responsible for raising me. Jordan wasn't. I couldn't drag him down with me. Jordan looked at me. It seemed like he was weighing something in his heart. Then, with a stern face, he said to my father, I've got an apartment downtown. She'll stay there. From now on, take care of Jess. If I ever catch you gambling again, I'll break your legs. My dad's mouth fell open. He stared at Jordan like he didn't even recognize him. Brother, I felt a sting in my nose. You don't have to do this. You've already done more than enough for me. Kids shouldn't meddle in adults' business, Jordan said, ruffling my hair. Study hard, all right? He tossed the money at my dad and walked out of the hospital without looking back. Watching his retreating figure, I couldn't hold it in anymore. I burst into tears. My dad and I owed him too much. After Jordan left, even though the city wasn't that big, I never saw him again. Once I was discharged, we moved into Jordan's apartment. But my father still couldn't sit still. He would sneak out, craving a few rounds at the casino. One time, as soon as he stepped into a gambling den, he was thrown out with a warning, get lost. I see you here again, I'll beat the crap out of you. He returned home dejected. A few days later, he tried a different casino, same outcome. That's when he finally realized, he'd been blacklisted, name and all. Every casino guard he ran into used the same line, I see you here again, I'll beat you up. I snapped at him, can't you just find a real job? He nodded solemnly, swearing he would. When his addiction didn't flare up, he was like a changed man, calm, determined. but when it did, he'd even go downstairs to play mahjong with elderly neighbors. His skills were terrible and his luck worse. Eventually, even the old folks refused to play with him. Then one day, drunk and staggering across the street, he got hit by a speeding truck. Luckily, he survived, with a broken leg. Lying in the hospital bed, he gripped my hand and cried bitterly. "Jess, this time I swear, I'll find a real job. Keep an eye on me." He'd made that same promise 100 times before. Still, I had to encourage him. I wanted him to get better, for himself, and so Jordan's efforts wouldn't be in vain. To my surprise, after leaving the hospital, he really quit gambling. He found work as a security guard. Slowly, our lives started getting better. Middle school had its share of dark days, but at least it passed quickly. When the high school entrance exam results came out, I had ranked in the top 50 of the entire city. I was accepted into an elite high school. The day the scores were posted, I ran into Salma. I heard her dad had lost an arm over a gambling debt. Her whole family now worked 3 jobs each just to survive. Her grades weren't great, and she hadn't made it into any high school, only a vocational school. Compared to her, I was so much luckier. The next 3 years of high school flew by in a blur of textbooks and lectures. All I did was study, every single day. After the college entrance exams, I rushed to the old apartment where Jordan used to live. But the place was long abandoned, weeds growing wild outside the door. That summer, I kept going back to wait around, because aside from this address, I knew nothing else about where Jordan could be. One day, from across the street, I spotted a familiar figure. Excited, I ran toward him, but by the time I crossed the road, he had vanished. Disappointed, I went home and picked up my phone. I texted Jordan's old number. "Brother, I got into a university in the capital. I won't be in City A anymore. I really want to see you. Where are you?" But the message disappeared into silence. He probably didn't use that number anymore. That summer, I retraced every place we'd been together, still no sign of him. But I had a feeling, he wasn't far away. Sometimes, fate works like that. The more you want to see someone, the harder they are to find. My dad had been working hard, and his boss rewarded him with a big bonus. To celebrate my college admission, he gave me part of it. "Your old man's being generous, huh?" He really had changed. It gave me peace of mind as I prepared to leave for school in another city. With the money in hand, I headed to the mall to finally buy the figurine I'd always wanted but could never bring myself to splurge on. I didn't expect the store to be packed, the price even higher than usual. Sighing, I squeezed through the crowd and got stepped on. The guy who stepped on me didn't even apologize, he lashed out instead. "Watch where you're going, you blind or what?" I crouched down on the sidewalk, wiping my shoe with a sigh. Just then, someone called my name. I looked up. It was the same guy from earlier. He ran over holding the figurine, face pale and legs shaking. Here, this is for you." I am sorry," he stammered, thrusting it at me. Before I could say anything, he bolted. A strange thought crossed my mind, and I quickly chased after him. But after a few blocks, he was nowhere to be found. I finally broke down, squatting on the sidewalk and crying. He'd been so aggressive, then suddenly turned timid. Someone must have scared him. And the only person in this world who'd do that, for me, was Jordan. I cried uncontrollably, my heart in shambles. Then someone tapped me on the shoulder. "You still cry this much, huh?" That teasing, low voice pierced straight through me. I turned my head, stiff with disbelief. The evening breeze carried the scent of summer. A tall figure stood beside a glass window. I studied him closely and finally confirmed, it was Jordan. Gone was the fierce, roguish aura. Time, that relentless sculptor, had carved the rebellious boy into a grown man. He looked me over and teased, "You've grown up, kid." I let out a breathless laugh, then rushed to hug him. "Where have you been? Why didn't you leave any message?" He wiped my tears with his thumb and chuckled. "I've been busy, starting a business, reinventing myself." We sat down at a nearby cafe. Over milk tea, I learned that he'd been working and studying all these years. Jess is so amazing, always ranking first. I couldn't let myself fall too far behind. I was truly happy for him. Then I asked, sipping my drink, so, did you ever get married? He raised an eyebrow. Why do you ask? Flustered, I waved a hand. No reason. Just curious. He took a sip of coffee. Marry? I can barely take care of myself. Relieved, I smiled. What are you smiling at? Jordan shot me a look. On the day I moved into my dorm, Jordan insisted on driving me. I didn't refuse. Downstairs, one of my roommates stared at him, eyes sparkling. Jessica, is he your brother? I glanced at Jordan, then back at her. Something possessed me. No. He's not. Jordan's face darkened visibly. When we went out to eat, Jordan was clearly sulking. He strode ahead in silence. I tugged at the hem of his jacket and whispered, "Don't be mad. I didn't say I don't want you to be my brother because I dislike you." He turned to look at me. Then why? I don't want to say yet, I stammered. He waved his hand dismissively. Whatever. As long as you're happy. I giggled and wrapped my arm around his. His body stiffened for a moment, but soon he gave me a crooked smile. After that, Jordan and I added each other on WeChat. He often used business trips as an excuse to visit me in Beijing. Every time, he came with huge bags of snacks, even some for my roommates. One of them held my hand, blinking playfully. Jessica, your brother is so sweet. Any chance I could be your sister-in-law? I rolled my eyes. No chance. She walked away, clearly disappointed. Just before Christmas, our teacher assigned me and the class monitor to buy gifts for the class. As the monitor took some bags from me, I smiled and said, "Thanks. Whoever ends up dating you will be a lucky girl." He gave a goofy laugh, ears flushing red. We turned a corner, and ran straight into Jordan. His brows furrowed as he saw us together. The monitor quickly put down the gifts and held out a hand politely. "You must be Jessica's brother, right? Nice to meet you." Jordan squeezed out a tight-lipped hello. The moment they shook hands, the monitor winced, his face contorted in pain. Jordan let go, then looked at me. "Finish your errands first. We'll talk later." Then he turned and left. "Ow, your brother has quite the grip," the monitor said, shaking his hand. I held back a laugh. Looked like all those messages I'd been sending Jordan were working. After finishing our errands, I immediately called him. "Are you mad?" I asked with a grin. "No," he replied flatly. "You should focus on your studies. Don't go falling for random boys." He paused. That guy had such a weak grip, useless. I burst into laughter, heart soaring. Jordan gave a few annoyed grunts, but after that, his visits became fewer and fewer. Eventually, even his messages slowed to a trickle. On Christmas Day, I made the first move and texted him. "What are you doing?" A few minutes later, he replied, "Working. I want to go out, but I have no one to go with." He replied with a snort, "Don't you have classmates?" "They're all with their partners. I'm the odd one out." I sent a teary-eyed emoji right after. Troublesome. I thought that was his way of turning me down. But 3 hours later, he called. "Come downstairs." Jordan, always grumpy on the outside, soft on the inside. I flew down the stairs, running straight into his arms. With a scowl, he pulled out a wrapped gift from his bag and tossed it to me. Such a hassle. What's so special about some Western holiday? I didn't care about the holiday. I just wanted to spend it with him. I hugged the gift and beamed. Just then, his phone rang. He answered. The voice on the other end was furious, shouting, "Jordan! Where the hell did you run off to in the middle of the meeting?" Turns out he'd ditched a work meeting and taken a flight just to spend Christmas with me. "Who the hell says nothing's more important than a meeting?" he yelled back. "I'm hanging up." So, I was more important than a meeting. My heart skipped wildly as I followed him down the street. He walked fast, hands in his pockets, posture straight and proud. We passed a small shop selling glowing headbands. The moment overlapped with a memory from long ago, Jordan being his usual arrogant, prickly self, tough on the outside but soft underneath. I ran in and bought two. "Hey, Jordan," I called, catching up. He turned around, confused. "Kneel down." Grumbling under his breath, he crouched obediently. I placed a glowing headband on him and patted his head. "So handsome." "No respect at all," he muttered, cheeks flushing pink. I handed him the other headband. "Now you put one on me." He fumbled with it for ages, finally giving up. So I took his hand and guided it to place it on my head. The moment our fingers touched, his hand trembled slightly. He quickly pulled away, looking flustered. "So, where do you want to go next?" "Hurry and say it," I pointed at the Ferris wheel. That. Was it just my imagination, or did his face twitch a little? I didn't realize until we were on board that Jordan was afraid of heights. He kept his eyes shut the whole time, muttering, "Is it over yet?" I leaned in and studied his face. Long lashes, a straight nose, sharp brows. He'd lost the wildness of youth and grown into something refined, handsome beyond words. His lashes fluttered, he was scared. And in that moment, I bent forward and kissed him. Jordan's eyes flew open. He stared at me, stunned. What are you doing?" "Want to die?" "Jordan," I whispered, face inches from his, "I don't want you to be my brother." His expression shifted. "Can you be my boyfriend instead, Jordan?" His cheeks reddened. He looked away, awkward. "I dream about you a lot," I said softly, my own face burning. "Jordan, I want you as my boyfriend." Before he could answer, I hooked an arm around his shoulders and kissed him again. His gaze darkened. He shoved me away and shouted, "That was my first kiss." I grinned. "Mine too." "Totally fair." He pointed at me. "You asked for this, kid. Don't go blaming me later." He didn't reject me, he liked me too. My heart practically leapt into my throat as I nodded furiously. "Cling all you want, I'll let you cling for a lifetime." Jordan growled, "Once we get off, you're dead meat." As the Ferris wheel climbed to its highest point, his fear peaked. I wrapped my arms around him and patted him gently. "Don't be afraid, Jordan. I'm here." Jessica's not afraid either, because she has Jordan. The year I met you was the luckiest year of my life. I'll treasure you forever.